We are studying the book of Proverbs, and in this verse, we learn how beneficial it is for a person to do good for others, and how, in turn, they themselves gain in many ways. Let us reflect on the words of King Solomon. As usual, the statements are very short. In the previous lesson, we discussed the first half of the verse in Proverbs. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. Today, we will focus on the continuation of the verse. And he who takes souls is wise. King Solomon says that a person who takes souls is wise. What does it mean to take? There are words in Hebrew that over time have been used in a way that deviates from their original meaning. Taking, in modern Hebrew for example, refers to picking something up from a table, but the original meaning of taking is more related to acquisition or ownership, like in the term purchase and sale. In this context, taking means acquiring or purchasing. We see this usage of the word take throughout the Torah as well, referring to a form of acquisition. So when Solomon says, "And he who takes souls is wise," it means that a person who acquires souls or who helps and influences people is wise. What does it mean to acquire people? The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, "Acquire for yourself a friend," meaning you should invest in others. Just like you purchase something, when you invest in someone, helping, supporting, and always being there for them, you build a friendship. People often say in modern slang, "You've won me over," which means, "I am deeply connected to you," or "You have made me your ally." The Sefer Ahinuch, one of the great early commentaries written around 800 years ago, teaches that a person becomes shaped by their actions. In other words, a person becomes like the actions they perform. When someone does good, they themselves become a better person, even if, by nature, they are not necessarily inclined to act that way. Everyone enters the world with their own set of characteristics. Some people are naturally kind, full of generosity. We've discussed this at length before. There are individuals whose soul root is in the Sephirah of Hesed, kindness, which is all about giving. Then there is Gevurah, severity, which represents judgment, and Tiferet, beauty, which represents balance. The aspiration should be to reach a state of Tiferet, of balance. But what about a person who says, "I don't feel like I enjoy giving, I don't enjoy helping others," or they recognize in themselves traits like stinginess or laziness? A person who is unwilling to make an effort for others but for themselves, they would move mountains. When it comes to doing good for others, they have no motivation. The Sefer Ahinuch, Book of Education, says that if you train yourself to do good, you will benefit because you will become good at your core. Let me give you an example, both positive and negative. Let's say a man in ancient times worked under a king, where kings sometimes ordered executions. While there are still places in the world today where such things happen, they are rare. Now imagine a person who is kind-hearted and sensitive to others, someone who is good-natured. But the king calls him in and says, "From now on, you will be the one to hang people. Everyone who has been sentenced to death, you will hang them, you will behead them." The man says, "This is not for me." But the king responds, "Do you want to experience what I just said?" The king gives him no choice, and the man takes on the position. At first he is horrified, but after 2 years, when you meet him again, he is still a sensitive person in many ways, but he has become rougher, more cruel, less compassionate. "But this is not my nature," he may say. Yet, as the Sefer Ahinuch teaches, a person is shaped by their actions. This is true even in the positive sense. Imagine a person who doesn't particularly love doing good for others, but one day they are told, "From now on you will call people to tell them they won the first prize in a lottery." So they start calling people, "Congratulations, you won $50 million, you won $10 million. They hear the joy and celebration in the voices of the winners, and they see how their actions bring good to others. After 2 years, when you meet this person, they have become someone different, someone who is genuinely happy when they do good for others, even though it wasn't part of their natural personality. King Solomon says that someone who helps others, who does good for others, takes souls. This is akin to acquiring people. When you do good for others, they like you and they become your friends. This person is wise because they understand that the good they do for others elevates them to a higher level of goodness. Some might ask, why is it important for me to be good? Isn't who I am enough? Why should I make an effort to become a better person? The answer is that being good is not just for your own sake. It has a ripple effect on your life and others. When you strive to help others, you not only improve their lives, but your own as well. Through these actions, you become a better person, and this is the wisdom that Solomon teaches. One of the greatest goals that every person should strive for is to become similar to the one who created them. The Torah tells us that we are required to be like God, to walk in His ways. Just as He is compassionate, we should be compassionate. Just as He is gracious, we should be gracious. Just as He bestows kindness, we too should bestow kindness. The aspiration should be to resemble God. When a person is born, they are not giving anything. But the Holy One, blessed be He, is the complete opposite. He only gives without receiving anything in return. He doesn't need anything from us. He is perfect and whole in every way. Even when He commands us to keep the commandments, it's not for His benefit, but for ours. He tells us, I will give you these guidelines. Follow them, and you will live well, both in this world and in the world to come. In essence, all the commandments in the Torah reveal the spiritual secrets of nature. There are things you can understand through science and observe the results. But there are things that God reveals to us that we wouldn't know on our own. For example, the mikvah, ritual bath, isn't the same as a regular bath. It has the power to purify. When a person immerses in a mikvah, they gain from it, not God. There is sanctity. There is purity in the relationship and in the soul's elevation when a child is born from a purified mother. We wouldn't have known about this difference between a mikvah and a regular bath unless God had revealed it to us. How would we have known how to make tefillin? Tefillin are a spiritual tool that draws down divine light and channels it into a person's mind, influencing their thoughts. The tefillin are placed on the arm near the heart, and the heart receives a dose of this divine light. These things, which science is just beginning to uncover, are well known in Jewish tradition. Through our faith, we knew long before modern research that when the Holy One, blessed be He, commands something, it's for our benefit. He doesn't need anything from us. He is complete in His perfection. Everything He tells us to do is for our own good, including both the rewards and the punishments, which are ultimately for the benefit of the person, as we will see later on. As a person becomes better, they transition from being a receiver to being a giver. The more they give, the more they resemble God. A baby is born, and while they receive everything, clothes, food, education, care, they do nothing to give in return. The parents are happy, they love the child, but the child is simply receiving. As the child grows and begins to speak, they start to feel that the world revolves around them. It's their game, their voice, their parents. As they mature further, they begin to realize that there are other people in the world, and that is when they start to evolve from being mere receivers to becoming givers themselves. A person must also share with others. The perfection of a person is when they transition from being a receiver to being a giver. In the blessings recited during a Brit Milah, circumcision, we say, just as He entered the covenant through circumcision, so may He enter into Torah, into marriage, into mitzvot, and into good deeds. The good deeds are mentioned after the wedding. Why not connect them to the bar mitzvah, which happens right after the Brit? Why only after the wedding? The answer is that a person's true goodness is measured only after marriage. Before marriage, you may see someone who is kind-hearted, generous, and giving, and anyone who knows him might think, this person is perfect. Look how much he gives. But it's not clear that his giving truly comes from a place of a kind heart. The human soul is very complex. Sometimes a person gives in order to boast, to show off, or to impress others. He wants people to say good things about him, to praise him. He acts kindly, but it's not because of genuine goodwill, but because he loves himself and cares about how others perceive him. He's giving, but it's because he wants to be admired, not because he's truly concerned for others. So what is the true measure? What is the true test that each person should check themselves against? The test is after marriage. That's why we say good deeds after the wedding, because marriage is the time when you can truly see if someone's kindness is real. Before marriage, the person might try to impress their future spouse, especially during the engagement period. But after marriage, when the relationship settles in, if the person is truly kind-hearted, they will continue to give to their spouse even more than they gave to others before. They will care for her as the Rambam, Maimonides, teaches that a man should honor his wife more than his own body, loving her as he loves himself. However, if the kindness shown before marriage was just a form of self-interest, wanting to impress others or gain praise, then after marriage, when the person feels that the admiration is no longer there, they may no longer show that same generosity. Sometimes we see people who appear very kind to the outside world, but when you ask their wife, she might say, "My husband has a good heart." But deep down she knows the truth and might feel, where is his good heart? This points to the wisdom of the saying that there are two who truly know a person. One is God and the other is his wife. The rest of the world can be fooled, but these two know him deeply, truly, in his essence. The true test of goodness, the true measure of kindness, is most evident after marriage. This is a time for deep self-reflection. It's essential to check one's motives and see if one's kindness is genuine or just for show. Every married person should do a soul-searching exercise with themselves. Is my kindness towards the world coming from my genuine desire to be good, or is it because I want to impress others? What happens when a single man or woman, in the midst of soul-searching, suddenly realizes, listen, I have this issue. I really feel like I do good things to impress people and gain respect. What should they do in that moment? Does that mean I stop helping others? God forbid. The sages said, a person should always engage in Torah and mitzvot, even if not for the right reasons, as through acting not for the right reasons, they will eventually come to do it for the right reasons. We weren't born angels. It's perfectly fine to start by doing things even if the motivation is not purely for God's sake. If a person wants a good relationship, they start observing Shabbat, modesty, even if they're not thinking about God. They begin observing modesty because they say, just as I don't want others touching my wife, I can't demand that she keep modesty if I don't. This may not be motivated by fear of heaven, but rather a desire for a healthy relationship, and that's fine. Start with that. Look for a partner who also observes modesty. It's not ideal, it's not for the sake of God, but you are looking after yourself. The Talmud says, a person should engage in Torah and mitzvot, even if not for the right reasons, as through acting not for the right reasons, they will eventually come to do it for the right reasons. Start slowly. Over time, your mind will mature. You'll look at life more seriously. Reflect on the purpose of creation, the purpose of life, and then you'll do it because God commanded it. Even if a person's kindness towards others is not driven by pure altruism, but from a desire for honor and recognition, that is still acceptable. A person is influenced by their actions, and by acting kindly, even for the wrong reasons, they will become a better person. Eventually, they will come to do it for the right reasons. This process of becoming similar to God through kindness to others is a gradual process. At first, a person is focused on themselves. Then they grow and begin to understand there are others to care about. They mature even more and realize they need to invest in their partner to give to them. One of the reasons God created relationships in the world is for this purpose. But at the beginning, when Adam was first created, they were not two separate beings, they were one. The verse in Psalms says, "You have formed me from behind and before." Adam says, "When you created me with a body shape, with back and front. On the back side, there was male, and on the front side, there was female, or the opposite." Yes, each side had something different. When God took the rib, he put Adam to fall into a deep sleep. Rashi explains this according to the Talmud, which presents two opinions, but Rashi rules according to the one that says it was a rib. What does rib mean? When you say rib of the mountain, what do you mean? You're talking about a bone. Rib means a side. When God took the rib, he essentially split Adam into two. Until then, the male and female were joined together, but God separated them, took the side, and closed the flesh back. Now there were two human beings. Why didn't he leave us as one? It would have been much easier to function with just one person. In a household with two people, each wants different things, has different opinions. But God said, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper opposite him." So, why an opposite? If it's opposite, how is it a helper? God says, this contrast will help them reach completeness, because how can we reach our perfection as human beings who are created in God's image? Only by living in a house with two people who have different opinions, approaches, and desires. Before marriage, we do everything to ensure compatibility. But after marriage, we discover not everything is the same. Not everything is aligned. This is the perfection of a person, working on one's character, giving and nurturing, even if they don't receive as they might have hoped. Through this, they become more like God. A helper opposite him. What we've said now is on a deeper level. On a simpler level, what does helper opposite him mean? The woman has qualities the man does not have, and the man has qualities the woman does not have. This contrast is what becomes the help. Consider a man who is told to watch 3 small children, ages 3, 4, and 5, at home for 6 hours. At first, he may be excited to spend time with the children because his wife went out shopping. After half an hour, he begins to realize that it's not so easy. He starts saying Tehillim. After another half hour, he calls his wife. "Are you coming back soon?" She doesn't understand. "I do this all the time. Why can't you manage?" He has different skills. He is capable of doing other things with great success, just as she has her own skills and successes. This is a helper opposite him. This is the simple explanation, but the deeper meaning of a helper opposite him is not only from the technical perspective, it's about human completeness. You reach completeness specifically because there is a difference between the man and the woman, different opinions, different approaches, different desires. And you adjust yourself to meet your wife's desires, and she adjusts to meet your desires. This is how a person reaches their completeness. After 120 years, when the soul leaves the body, the true person is the soul. The body is just a garment, a tool to build the soul. The Ramchal writes that when the soul is in the body, it is like a bud of a flower that is developing. It doesn't yet have the form of a flower, but as the bud grows, you water it, you invest in it. On the outside, it seems like nothing, but inside, leaves, colors, and fragrances begin to develop. When the bud opens, you are amazed at the beautiful flower, the colors, the fragrance. It's something wonderful. So too, says the Ramchal, when the soul is in the body, it is being built by the body. The soul is spiritual, it's high, but it's like raw material. Every struggle, every construction, every action, every mitzvah that a person does, whether between man and fellow or between man and God, builds and shapes the soul. When the soul leaves the body after our time on earth, it blossoms in its full beauty like a flower that has opened up. After the resurrection of the dead, when the soul returns to the body, it doesn't return like a bud, but in its full glory, in full bloom. Then everyone will see the spiritual level of each person. Today, we cannot know the spiritual level of any person. We can only be impressed by the outside. He looks this way or she looks that way. But you cannot truly know. You might have actors who dress up in costumes, grow long beards, and dress in strange ways, but everything inside may be corrupted. You cannot immediately know who the person is. There are also people whom, on the outside, you might think are distant or detached, but when you look into their inner world, you see realms of spirituality that exist within them. Today, we cannot know who a person truly is. After the resurrection of the dead, everyone will walk in the street, and everyone will see the spiritual level of each person based on the light, the strength, and the blossoming of the soul shining through the body. Today, the body blocks the soul due to the sin of Adam. The body became tainted, and all matter became impure, which is why it now blocks the soul. But in the future, when the world reaches its perfection and correction, the body that will rise will be pure and clean. The light will shine through the body as it blossoms, and everyone will see the spiritual level of each person. Today, in this period of work, the present is a time for striving, but the future, the time of the Messiah, will be the time of receiving reward. There, you can no longer change who you are, but you can continue to develop with the tools you have. However, you cannot develop the tool itself. The tool will remain the same. But today you can build the tool at a different level, the vessel for the soul itself. Therefore, the great aspiration of every person should be, I want to be good, because after these actions, my personality will change. This way, I will be more similar to the Holy One, blessed be He, and I will reach greater perfection. Solomon says, this is someone who thinks about the future, who takes care of souls, who invests in others, who makes an effort for them. It's hard work, like when you buy something, you pay money, but it's wise. It's a profitable transaction, worth it. This is the simpler level. There is another aspect. In the parable we are discussing now, after this we will see the interpretation of this verse. Only the parable is true in itself. There is an additional benefit. A person who invests in others benefits on a personal level. Solomon says elsewhere, cast your bread upon the waters, for after many days you will find it. Here he speaks in a parable. You take bread and place it on the waters, and the waves carry it away. What will I gain from this? It has gone into the sea. Solomon says, you may be on a boat someday, stranded in a remote place with nothing to eat, and the bread you cast will return to you and sustain you. Here, he means, invest, because in many days you will find it. When a person does good for others, he is taking care of souls. When he needs help, people will stand by his side. A person who is always giving, even though he gives, not in order to receive back, but because he wants to give, will find that when he needs help, everyone, his friends, will be there for him. But a person who is selfish, focused only on himself, people are not connected to him and don't feel the need to invest in him. From this aspect, Solomon says, a wise person takes souls. When you invest in others, you buy friends for yourself, as the Mishnah says. You don't do it just to buy them, but you invest because it's like paying. Know that you are a wise person. As the Mishnah says, do not scorn anyone, for there is no person who does not have a moment. Even a person you see in a low state, and you are in a higher position, and he comes to ask for help, and you feel, I will never need him, the sages say, do not scorn anyone. You can't know. Beyond the truth that you must help those who need help, don't be sure that you will never need that person. There is no person without their hour. There are times when you may discover that the person you once despised has risen to greatness. Now you might need their help. This is why when a person becomes accustomed to giving, Solomon the king describes him as a wise person, someone who sees the outcome. You invest, you build your character, you do good for others, and you become better yourself in your personality. What could be better than this? It also brings more joy, more fulfillment, more happiness. Every person knows within themselves that when they need others, they feel embarrassed. But when they give and contribute, there is no greater happiness than being filled with happiness. Specifically, there is something called true kindness. What is true kindness? It's when you do kindness for the deceased. When a person does kindness for their friend, they might still think, I'm helping them now, and when I need help, they'll help me. But when performing a kindness for the soul of a deceased person, you can't expect them to help you in the future. They are no longer in this world. You don't expect anything from them. This is called true kindness, pure kindness. Therefore, it's very important, if you know of a person who has passed away, and no one is saying Kaddish for them, or if they passed away without children, or their children are distant from Torah and mitzvot, and are not saying Kaddish for them, if you take the initiative and say, I will say Kaddish for this person, this is a great kindness that elevates them from one level to another. Just a note, if someone wants to say Kaddish for someone who has passed away, but they have living parents, one of them has passed away, there is no issue. Even if it was many years ago and the parent is no longer saying Kaddish, it's okay to say Kaddish for someone else. But if the parents are still alive, it's permissible to say Kaddish for someone else who passed away, as long as it doesn't hurt the parents. One should ask the parents if they allow them to say Kaddish for someone who has passed away and has no one to say Kaddish for them. If the parents say it's okay, then it's fine. However, if the father is offended and says, what do you think, that I'm dead? I'm still here, and cannot accept it, then out of respect for the parents, if they are insistent, you should not say Kaddish. But if they are okay with it, it's allowed. Another option is if you want to pay someone to say Kaddish for someone else who has passed away. You can pay someone to do this, meaning you would pay them monthly and they would say Kaddish. This is a great kindness for the soul of the deceased, and it's considered true kindness. The children of a person, when organizing Torah lessons for the soul of the deceased, also engage in a great act of kindness. Many charitable organizations have been established by children who wanted to honor their parents' memory. It's a great kindness of truth, as you don't expect anything in return from a deceased parent or grandparent. Perhaps there are prayers in heaven, but here on earth, you don't receive the reward as you would from a living person. Nevertheless, this is a great kindness of truth. Up to this point, this is the parable that Solomon the king speaks of. A wise person takes souls. Do good for others as you build your character and make friends who will help you when you need it. You become more like God and gain much in return. What is the interpretation? Rashi explains that Solomon used the word souls here. He didn't just say, wise person who gains friends. Souls refers to the soul of a person. Rashi explains, a wise person ensures the spiritual elevation of others. For example, when you do a favor for someone, helping them, being kind, you're helping them spiritually. In the interpretation, Solomon speaks about elevating someone's soul to a higher level, but some might say, what do you want me to do? I'm just a simple person. How can I act and do such things? There are many ways. You could organize a Torah class at your home once a week and invite all your acquaintances, even those who aren't religious. You can invite them, provide food, snacks, drinks, whatever they like, and have a class. Even if you have 10 people, some who might never go to a Torah class in a synagogue, they might come to your home because it's a personal invitation. You can bring a Torah scholar who knows how to speak, someone who can show them the beauty of Judaism, teach them ethics, teach them how to have a good marriage, or study Talmud on topics they enjoy. This is a great thing. Do you go to synagogue on Friday before Shabbat? At your home, thank God, you keep Shabbat, and everyone gets ready for it, dressed in Shabbat clothes. You go out to the synagogue and you see your neighbor in shorts washing his car. Does it pinch your heart? What kind of Shabbat is he having? That's his Shabbat. Washing the car. He'll get home. What will he see at home? The TV is on. You feel sorry for him. What kind of Shabbat does he have? But you can't dictate to him, and he won't understand what you're talking about. But you can approach him as a neighbor. With a kind face and a smile, you can say to him, out of love if you want, next Shabbat, when I go to synagogue, I'll knock on your door and we'll go together. You can suggest that he get ready a bit earlier, or call him on Friday morning. Hey, good friends, what do you think? Come with me to synagogue. Usually the response is no. It's not for me. I haven't been in years. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to open the prayer book. You tell him, what's the harm? Come sit next to me. I'll show you what you need in the prayer book. We'll sing together. The atmosphere will be good. You'll feel good. What's the harm in trying it once? If he comes once, you can try to get him to come again. It's the same with tefillin. If you have a friend at work or school who wears tefillin, do you bring your tefillin to work during lunch and offer it to him? What do you say? No, I'm not Shabbat. They're the ones who wear tefillin. But it's a mitzvah. You're helping a fellow Jew put on tefillin, and that's a big thing. Whatever you can do to inspire others, try to think of how you can do it. A wise person takes souls. Go to a Torah class and bring a friend along. Why is he called taking souls? On a deeper level, it's because he elevates the spirituality of others. This applies both in the literal sense and spiritually. In the book, Chovot Alevavot, Duties of the Heart, there's an interesting idea. It says, know that a person who helps his friend is helping the public. His merit is greater in heaven than even that of the righteous, and even greater than that of the prophets. This means that a righteous person who spends his whole day learning Torah and keeping mitzvot but doesn't care about others is happy, has a good life, educates his children in the ways of the Torah, has a good relationship with his wife and children, but he doesn't invest in others. Then, take a person who is not as righteous but is active, bringing people to Torah classes, organizing events, strengthening others, and engaging in activities. Chovot Alevavot says that this second person has a greater merit. Why? Let's assume the first righteous person has accumulated 1,000,000 merits in his lifetime. That's a big deal. But the person who helps others may not have reached 1,000,000, but perhaps he has reached 800,000 merits. However, he has helped 30, 50, or 100 people over his life, encouraging them to keep Shabbat, give charity, attend Torah classes, put on tefillin, and so on. So, in essence, he has shares in the merits of those people. In the end, his total merit could be 1.2 million. The righteous person might have 1 million, but the person who helps others has 1.2 million. Chovot Alevavot explains that the merit of someone who helps others is greater than that of the righteous, and even greater than that of the prophets. Prophets are those who have the privilege of speaking with God. Now let's quickly examine the last verse of this chapter, chapter 10 in Proverbs. The righteous will be repaid on earth. How much more the wicked and the sinner? King Solomon says here that before this he praised the righteous, saying that the righteous will flourish and the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. But now someone might come and ask, why are you praising the righteous so much? I know wicked people who are doing well. They have money, they're healthy, their lives are in order. What is all this praise about? I would expect the wicked to suffer and the righteous to prosper. So, how can it be that there are righteous people who are doing well? The Talmud explains that this is a question that Moses himself asked God. Moses said, "Master of the universe, there is a verse in the Torah, show me your ways." What was bothering Moses? The Talmud says that Moses asked God, "Why is it that some righteous people prosper while others suffer? And why do wicked people sometimes prosper while the righteous suffer?" Moses was wondering about divine justice, why God doesn't always make the righteous prosper and the wicked suffer. The answer is that, generally speaking, the righteous do well and the wicked suffer, but there are exceptions. Even Job asked this question, and the prophet Jeremiah asked, "Why does the way of the wicked prosper?" And here, King Solomon answers, "The righteous will be repaid on earth." Even when things seem unfair, in the long run, the righteous will receive their reward. When a righteous person is in this world, the Holy One, blessed be He, repays him for the minor sins he has committed, giving him troubles and suffering in order to purify him. He then arrives in the world to come with all his merits and has eternal happiness, because even the stains on his soul from the sins he has committed are cleansed. It is written that no one is perfect, as the verse says, "There is no righteous man on earth who does good and does not sin." Every person has failures, falls, and mistakes. Some people's mistakes are severe, while others' faults are minor, but no one is perfect. If a person repents, he does not need suffering. If he repents out of love, he is completely purified. But what happens with this righteous person? Does he still have stains on his soul from sins he has committed? King Solomon says, "The righteous will be rewarded on earth." The Holy One, blessed be He, rewards him on earth in order to purify him, even though the wicked and sinful will eventually be punished, either in this world or the next. This is also reflected in the words of King David in Psalms, "The wicked sprout like grass, and all the workers of iniquity flourish." But then David concludes, "to be destroyed forever." Why do they sprout now? Because they receive their reward for their good deeds in this world. When they come to the world to come, they will have nothing, and there they will receive all the suffering and troubles. Why is it necessary to reward them in this world? It's so that in the world to come, they won't have any merits, and can therefore be purified from their sins through suffering. It is so that in the world to come, they will not have any merits, and thus they will be able to be purified from their sins through suffering. God does not hate them. He is simply ensuring that they are able to undergo the purification process. If they came to the world to come with the light of their good deeds, they would not be able to enter the washing machine that cleanses them from their sins. Therefore they are given their reward in this world, allowing them to go through the purifying process in the next world. Everything is for the benefit of the person. A wise person in this world understands that he strives to be righteous. He may fall and make mistakes, but he repents and progresses, becoming spiritually perfected over time. When he asks the Holy One, blessed be He, why he is suffering today, God explains to him the reason, such as the purification from a previous incarnation, like Terach, who worshipped idols. These various reasons show how God sometimes gives suffering to the righteous in this world for their purification. However, there is another reason. Why are there situations where a person does good and does not see an immediate reward, and does bad and does not experience immediate punishment? The Holy One, blessed be He, gave humans free choice. There would be no free choice if we always saw an immediate reward for the righteous and immediate punishment for the wicked. For example, if someone entered a charity office, said, I want to donate 500 shekels per month to support a Torah scholar, and then walked out to find a diamond worth $1 million, or the next day after making another donation, found a piece of jewelry worth $1 million, who would choose differently? Or if someone ate forbidden food and immediately choked or started their car and it exploded on Shabbat, would anyone violate Shabbat or eat non-kosher food? This would not happen. To allow humans free choice, God arranged the world so that we do not see immediate results. Sometimes it seems that the righteous suffer and the wicked prosper. This is all to allow for free choice. Even when the righteous suffer, there are deeper reasons. And all of this is part of how God manages the world in the most perfect and precise way. We have now finished chapter 10 of Proverbs, and in the next class, God willing, we will start chapter 12. Let's conclude with a prayer before we move on to the questions. For everyone here with us, may this lesson be for the success of all, for the protection of the people of Israel, and for the soldiers of Israel, everywhere they are. May we merit complete redemption with kindness and mercy. Amen.